increasing amounts of sunshine in our air coming in from the south, particularly into next weekend, it could start to turn quite warm, as temperatures perhaps creeping up into the mid-20s. Stay tuned.
This programme asks plain questions with the help of the unrivalled range of BBC journalists right across the world. And gathered here in this building, I'll also draw my time reporting on global conflict. Frontline experience that helps me know who to talk to and who to listen to, meaning our analysis is unbiased with absolutely no spin.
Unspun World, Saturday at 2:30 on the BBC News Channel.
The Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says he'll resign if he's fined by Durham police for breaking COVID rules. He's being investigated after an event during lockdown last year where he had a beer and a curry with party workers.
No rules were broken. I'm absolutely clear about that. But in the event that I'm wrong about that and I get a fixed penalty notice, I will do the right thing and step down.
We'll be live in Ukraine as Vladimir Putin says his invasion was to protect Russia. During the Victory Day parade in Moscow marking the defeat of Nazi Germany, he made false claims alleging Western aggression.
Preparations were openly underway for another punitive operation in Donbass and an invasion of our historic lands, including Crimea.
Deadlock in Belfast after Sinn Féin win the most seats at Stormont, but the Democratic Unionists refuse to govern with them. The head of one of the UK's biggest energy companies calls on the government to knock £1,000 off the energy bills of millions of households this winter. And the amateur fossil hunter who found a rare shark tooth up to 20 million years old, and he's only 6.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, 3 in a row for Chelsea in the Women's Super League. We hear from their manager Emma Hayes after their final day title-winning drama.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. The Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says he will quit if he is fined by Durham police for breaking COVID rules last year during lockdown. He's been under pressure after the police announced they would be investigating an event at which he drank beer and had a curry with party workers at an MP's office. In a statement this afternoon, Sir Keir insisted repeatedly that no laws were broken, but that as a matter of principle and integrity, he will stand down if he's issued with a fixed penalty notice. The Deputy Leader, Angela Rayner, has confirmed she will step down if she too is fined. Here's our political correspondent, Ben Wright.
The questions were not going to stop.
Mr. Starmer, will you resign, sir, if you are fined?
Sir Keir Starmer has been on the back foot since Friday, when Durham police said it would begin an inquiry into this, an indoor gathering for party workers involving beer and curry last April. The Labour leader has always said he didn't break the COVID rules in place, but today he suddenly raised the stakes.
If the police decide to issue me with a fixed penalty notice, I would, of course, do the right thing and step down.
It's a gamble intended to draw a stark contrast with Boris Johnson.
We've seen 50 fines in Downing Street. We've seen a Prime Minister who won't step down. We are not all the same. I am different, and I've set out today how I'm different.
It was a day's campaigning in Durham last year that has left the Labour leader with a thumping political headache. While his team insists the beer and takeaway curry were an essential part of their working day, Sir Keir Starmer was very quick to demand Boris Johnson's resignation when police in London decided to investigate lockdown-breaking parties in Downing Street.
The British public aren't fools. They never believed a word of it. They think the Prime Minister should do the decent thing and resign.
You've portrayed yourself again today as a politician of integrity. You're a former director too of public prosecutions. How embarrassed are you, angry are you
that your career as Labour leader now hangs on the outcome of a police investigation?
Ben, first and foremost, no rules were broken. I don't actually believe that those that are accusing me believe rules were broken. They are trying to simply drag all politicians into a place where the public think we're all the same.
Putting out the bunting for UK businesses in Downing Street today, Boris Johnson shows no sign of quitting over lockdown-breaking parties in Number 10. He's already been issued with one fine and the police are still investigating. And ministers have been reluctant to say that Labour's leader should resign.
He made a great deal of the fact that there were other investigations on other people underway when he probably knew all the time that he may also have potentially come in for investigation himself. So that is absolutely a matter for him, and let's wait for the investigation to proceed to see what else might come out of this.
Sir Keir Starmer has tried to put the pressure back on Boris Johnson by putting his career on the line. Police in Durham now have a very big call to make. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
Let's talk to our political editor, Chris Mason, who's at Westminster. Chris, the twists and turns of Partygate, then Beergate. I suspect if you were to write this as a drama, no one would believe it. Presumably Sir Keir Starmer felt he had no choice but to offer his resignation today.
Exactly that. Evening to you, Fiona. He felt that this was a big gamble, but in the circumstances, it was better than the alternative. He sought the opinion of senior figures in the party. Not all thought that this was a good idea, but I understand it was his instinct from the very moment that Durham police said they were reopening their investigation into what happened just over a year ago. So why has he done what he's done? Well, imagine the alternative where he'd avoided answering the question. For potentially a couple of months, he would have been dogged by questions about what he might do, and that would have been very, very difficult. He wouldn't have been able to say anything else in the intervening period, and it would have also looked like he wasn't willing to hold himself to the same moral high bar that he expected of the Prime Minister and the Chancellor when he said they should go because they had been fined. Instead, by saying he would resign, he hopes he's created some political space, and potentially, if, and it's a big if, he isn't fined, it helps him to define himself, his supporters hope, as somebody who believes in fairness and decency. But he could be fined. If he is, it's curtains, it's toast for him, and a Labour leadership race will beckon.
Chris Mason, thanks very much. Talks are taking place in Belfast between the Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis and the Stormont Assembly's 5 main parties to try to break the current political deadlock. Last week's election saw Sinn Féin winning the most seats for the first time in Northern Ireland's history. It means the Nationalist Party is entitled to the role of First Minister. But that depends on the second largest party, the Democratic Unionists, or DUP, nominating a deputy. And the DUP is refusing to do so unless the government removes all trade barriers with the rest of the UK that have arisen out of Brexit. Our Ireland correspondent Chris Page has more.
Michelle O'Neill has the keys to the First Minister's office, but she can't unlock the door unless her political rivals become her partners. The Sinn Féin Vice President is in line to be the first Irish nationalist to take the job. It would be a hugely symbolic moment for the party which wants Northern Ireland to leave the UK.
It's time for us all, as political leaders, to have the courage to step forward with unity of purpose and determination to deliver a stable power-sharing coalition, one that works and mostly one that delivers. The people want government and we all want change, and I am committed to both.
But the Democratic Unionist Party is committed to changing the Brexit trading arrangements, which it says have created an economic barrier with England, Scotland and Wales. The Northern Ireland Protocol means certain goods like milk, eggs, medicines and parcels are inspected when they arrive here from Great Britain. The arrangement was put in place to keep open the border with the Republic of Ireland. It's the only land frontier between the UK and the EU. And Brussels wants to prevent any goods which aren't in line with EU standards from reaching the European single market. After talks with the Northern Ireland Secretary, the DUP has insisted again there'll be no devolved government unless the protocol's scrapped.
I'm not going to say one thing to the electorate and the day after the election do a vote fast. I'm not going to do that. I gave my word. I sought a mandate on the basis of sorting out the protocol. I'm committed to doing that. The sooner it happens, the better.
The DUP is hoping its stance will put pressure on Boris Johnson to take action to remove the protocol on his own if he can't reach an agreement with the EU that deals with unionists' concerns. But other parties here at Stormont have accused the DUP of holding the people of Northern Ireland to ransom.
The Irish Prime Minister has denied a claim by London that the EU is being inflexible about how the trade border should work.
We do hear the concerns from unionism and from other quarters in relation to the operation of the protocol, but it is our view that those concerns can be addressed.
Amidst the uncertainty, there have been celebrations and snaps for newly elected politicians today. None of them can know when or even if they'll get to govern Northern Ireland. Well, the first sitting of the Assembly has been scheduled for this Friday, but bar a political miracle, a power-sharing coalition won't have been formed by then. So the ministers who were in post before polling day can carry on, but only in a caretaker capacity. That means they can't take any major decisions. That state of governmental limbo can go on for up to 6 months. After that, technically, another election has to be called.
Chris Martin in Belfast, thank you very much. If you'd like to know more about the political situation in Northern Ireland, you can find more on our website. That's bbc.co.uk/news. Now to the war in Ukraine and over to Clive Myrie, who's in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, tonight. Clive.
Yes, good evening, Fiona. Welcome to a city, a country with all eyes on Moscow today and the much anticipated speech from Vladimir Putin in Red Square. The Russian leader addressed the huge Victory Day military parade, saying Russian troops fighting here in Ukraine were defending the motherland. He said the invasion of this country was necessary and had been provoked by the West. But he didn't make any major announcement related to the war or suggest when or how it might end. The Victory Day parade commemorates the anniversary of the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945 and is also, of course, an annual reminder of the Kremlin's military might. Our Russia editor Steve Rosenberg reports now from Moscow.
It is the annual pomp to showcase Russian power. Across Red Square they marched, thousands of soldiers, in a parade marking a glorious victory, the defeat of Nazi Germany. But today there is no peace. Vladimir Putin has invaded Ukraine. Back from there, parading two paratroopers who Moscow says took part in the Russian offensive. A war of conquest, says the West. The Kremlin disagrees.
The defence of our motherland, when its destiny was at stake, has always been sacred. As in the past, you, our soldiers, are today fighting for our people in Donbass, for the security of our motherland, for Russia.
On display, lots of firepower. And yet, in Ukraine, Moscow has suffered military setbacks. What Russia does next isn't clear.
You can march thousands of soldiers across Red Square. You can parade your very latest military hardware. But that does not automatically make you an internationally recognized superpower. The point is that the Kremlin's decision to attack Ukraine has sparked global condemnation and sanctions and is turning Russia into a pariah.
And that has consequences. Doused with paint, Russia's ambassador to Poland at a Soviet military cemetery today. The crowd is calling the Russian officials fascists. Moscow has lodged an official complaint. There were individual protests in Russia too. No to the new war, says the sign. It didn't last long. Others came to Victory Day events with signs that said, this isn't what they fought for. And what about those who fought in World War II? Maria Sidorova, who's 100 years old, says all she wants is peace. The war I fought in, we understood. But this war now, well, maybe I'm old, but there's something not quite right about it. I hope it ends soon. Vladimir Putin wants Russians to believe the decisions he takes are right. This giant Victory Day event portrayed him as the father of the nation. But in a system built around one man, if he gets it wrong, that's dangerous. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.
The view there from the cobbled streets of Red Square. Well, Ukraine's President Zelensky here has released his own video message commemorating the victory over Nazi Germany, saying his country will win its war with Russia. Much of the fighting here is taking place in the east and south of the country, with Russia's defense ministry saying 200 targets have been hit today, mainly in the Donbas region, the former industrial heartland that hugs the border with Russia. But despite the attacks, the Russian offensive overall appears to have stalled in the east, with reports of heavy losses. The BBC's Andrew Harding has sent us this report from eastern Ukraine, and a warning: it contains pictures you may find distressing.
A quiet village in the Donbas is saying farewell to Ivan Naduty, killed by a scrap of Russian shrapnel. The 30-year-old builder volunteered to fight the day after Putin's invasion. His wife begged him not to go. Now his father is lost in grief. But something else is stirring in this village and across this region. A burning sense of defiance. He was defending freedom for every one of us, says a village elder, his lip trembling. Glory to our heroes. A lonely Ukrainian warplane thunders overhead. The front lines are just a town away to the north. And a defiant blitz spirit is growing here too, as the bombs fall at random in places like Kramatorsk. Seizing this corner of eastern Ukraine, with its close ties to Russia, was supposed to be an easier task for the Kremlin's blundering army. But the blundering goes on. My shop is hardly a strategic target, says Lilia with contempt. And all this is stiffening the resolve of Ukrainian soldiers. We met this tank unit, holding their ground at a spot where Russia has been trying to break through. They badly need better equipment, but they have other strengths.
We are unity. We fight for our independence from Russia. Russian soldiers fight for money. They don't motivate it as we.
The Russians have been pounding these frontline positions for weeks now, but the big picture here in the Donbas is that the Kremlin's offensive has largely stalled. They've taken hardly any significant towns, and the Ukrainians are making them pay a heavy price for every scrap of land. Further out in no man's land, Ukrainian volunteers collect the abandoned bodies of Russian soldiers. Too many to count, according to Alexei Yukov. I can't see how the Russian army can keep going. It's losing so many men, he says. I don't understand this madness. Back at the village, Ivan's father is still inconsolable. But his widow brings their 5-year-old son to the graveside. He was a stubborn man and a good man, she tells us, sounding resolute now, as the struggle for the Donbas grinds on. Andrew Harding, BBC News, in eastern Ukraine.
The view there on the front line in the east. Let's talk now to our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucet, who's in the central Ukrainian city of Dnipro. Lise, it's good to see you. We all thought, didn't we, that we were going to get greater clarity about what lay ahead in this war from Vladimir Putin and his speech, but we're all left guessing about his true war aims, the parameters of the fighting, and what victory might actually look like for Russia.
Yes, Clive, yet again we're reminded that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is really President Putin's war, and so from the very start it's been a guessing game. there was so much uncertainty about what President Putin wants that there was speculation in the run-up to May the 9th. Would he call up for a general mobilization, a declaration of war, rather than the special military operation as he described it? Or would he instead declare victory and try to bring an end to these hostilities on the ground where he's clearly not gaining ground? And in the end, he did neither in a speech which largely focused on his animosity toward the West. But he did say, as he has said so many times, it is all going according to plan. And so what do we see on the ground? As we heard from Andrew Harding, the bulk of his fighting forces and firepower are now focused on the Donbass in eastern Ukraine, closer to his borders. Even there, he's being denied that swift and sweeping victory that he thought he would get so early on in this invasion. So what do we expect? More and more of this war, a war in which there are so many losses, but where Ukrainians to a person still say, it's a war we will win.
Indeed. Okay, Lise, many thanks for that. Lise Doucette there, our chief international correspondent. Well, as Lise was saying, there was a huge build-up to Vladimir Putin's speech today, but it's notable for what he didn't say. No official declaration of war with Ukraine, no mass mobilization of troops, no tick list of achievements, because there aren't any, and most significantly, no timeline for victory, and no sense when his troops will be going home. That's it from me and the team here in Kyiv. Now back to you, Fiona, for the rest of the day's news.
Clive, thanks to you and the whole team there in Kyiv. The time is about 6:20, our top story this evening. The Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says he'll resign if he's fined by Durham police for breaking COVID rules. And just in the last couple of minutes, it's been confirmed by Buckingham Palace that the Queen will not be attending the state opening of Parliament tomorrow.
Coming up in Sports Day on the BBC News Channel, with no Premiership sides in the Champions Cup semis, Sales Director of Rugby hits out at the salary cap, saying pay restrictions in the English game make it harder to match sides from France.
The head of Scottish Power is calling on the government to give 10 million households £1,000 each towards their energy bills by October. Without it, he says, 40% of households could be in fuel poverty this winter, with an expected rise of average energy bills in October to between £2,500 and £3,000 a year. The Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, has said again that people will have to wait until the autumn for any further help with their energy bills. Here's our business editor, Simon Jack.
Gerard Barwick, like millions of other energy consumers, is looking at soaring bills with dismay. He can't see how he can afford another rise this winter.
We've already cut back on not using as much heating, not using as much electricity. Now, come October, they expect you to pull out another £1,000. You're already looking at an empty purse, and you cannot pull any more money out of an empty purse.
The price cap was introduced in early 2019 to ensure customers weren't overcharged. It stayed relatively stable until soaring wholesale prices saw it shoot up to nearly £2,000 this April, and Scottish Power estimate it could hit £2,900 this October, which would see workers on average salaries spending 10% of their take-home pay on energy. That is one definition of fuel poverty and would include 10 million households. Keith Anderson wants £1,000 knocked off their bills, paid for by adding £40 to all bills over the next 10 years.
10 million households, that is not just people on benefits or just people requiring government support. That is average income, average families who will be suffering real issues with debt and real issues with the ability to heat their home by October.
Some might describe this as self-serving lobbying to ensure companies like his get paid, but he insisted energy retailers could not continue to lose hundreds of millions of pounds.
We can't subsidise the energy sector forever, and that's what we have been doing. Last year we were clearly subsidising customers' bills. This year we're subsidising customers' bills. There's a limit as to how long that can go on before you run out of money doing it.
The government has already provided some support. There was a £150 council tax rebate for most households from April, and there'll be £200 knocked off all bills come October, but that money will have to be repaid over the following years. But there is widespread acknowledgement, both outside and within government, that more help will be needed if households are to withstand another crippling rise in energy bills this winter. The Treasury has said it wants to wait to see how high prices rise before deciding what to do. Speaking today, the Chancellor gave his clearest signal yet that targeted help is coming.
We can do things to support people, and we are going to do what we can to ease the burden. I wish I could make it completely go away, but I can't. But where we can make a difference, particularly for those who really need our help, that's what we're going to do, that's what we have done, and we will continue to do so.
But Scottish Power warned that if the Chancellor wants industry help to head off a winter crisis, he needs to act soon. Simon Jack, BBC News.
In the last few minutes, Buckingham Palace has announced that the Queen will not attend tomorrow's state opening of Parliament. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell joins us. Nick, what more can you tell us about this?
Well, the decision has been taken by Buckingham Palace that the Queen will not be attending the state opening of Parliament tomorrow. The Queen's speech will be read instead by the Prince of Wales, with the Duke of Cambridge also in attendance. They are both, of course, councillors of state, so they're empowered to do that. This is what the Palace statement says within the last few minutes. The Queen continues to experience episodic mobility problems and, in consultation with her doctors, has reluctantly decided that she will not attend the state opening of Parliament tomorrow. At Her Majesty's request and with the agreement of the relevant authorities, the Prince of Wales will read the Queen's speech on Her Majesty's behalf, with the Duke of Cambridge also in attendance. Now, we're told that the decision was taken today in consultation with the royal doctors, even though earlier today we were led to believe that she was still hoping to attend. The palace won't go into detail as to what these episodic mobility problems are specifically, but we understand that they are a continuation of the issues that she has experienced since last autumn, which have caused her, of course, to miss other recent church services. But she is continuing with virtual audiences with Australia today, with the Privy Council. There'll be a consultation with the Prime Minister also. So that work is continuing from Windsor Castle, but she will not be attending the state opening of Parliament tomorrow.
Nicholas Witchell, thank you. Morrisons has done a deal to buy one of Britain's biggest convenience chains, McColl's. Morrisons secured the deal after a last-minute bidding war against the billionaire owners of Asda. The retailer says it's taking on all of McColl's 1,160 stores, and all colleagues will be transferred to Morrisons. The group is also taking on the 2 pension schemes. A man has admitted killing a police community support officer in Kent, but he's denied murder. Julia James was found dead in Ackholt Wood in April last year. The 53-year-old had been walking her dog when she was attacked. Callum Wheeler, who's 22, appeared at Canterbury Crown Court for the first day of his trial, which is expected to last 4 weeks. Thousands of travellers have faced hours of long queues at Birmingham and Manchester airports. Many hoping to fly out of the airports had to queue to enter the terminals. Birmingham Airport decided to line up queues for security outside to prevent those becoming tangled up with check-in queues inside. The airport says it has already started recruiting extra staff. A rare and precious find, a tooth from one of the world's largest prehistoric sharks, a Megalodon. It was found on the Suffolk coast, and it could be up to 20 million years old. And the amateur fossil hunter who found this rare fossil, well, he's only 6. Joe Black reports.
The tooth of one of the largest prehistoric sharks, extinct for roughly 3.5 million years. It's a discovery that any experienced paleontologist would be thrilled with. But this Megalodon tooth was unearthed by a 6-year-old. And now Sammy and his fossil are the talk of his school.
Sammy, I like your fossil. I think the tooth is heavy. It's really big, and Megalodons are from ages ago.
But what does Sammy make of it all?
So it's like so big, and I didn't know what even it was.
And how did you find out what it was?
My daddy told me.
There were clearly some very serious fossil hunters down there with all the proper gear. And then me and Sammy in muddy boots walking along the beach, hoping to find the shark's tooth, and then instead turning up this Megalodon tooth.
Megalodons are thought to be the largest fish that ever lived. A megalodon's full body length can range from at least 13 metres up to a maximum of 18 metres, or almost the length of 2 double-decker buses. It was the last bank holiday weekend here in Bordsey in Suffolk where Sammy struck lucky. Sammy has been to this beach before, but he was looking for shells. But inspired by talking to fossil hunters, he decided to try and look for shark's teeth. So this was his first attempt at doing so. And of course, he found one. But at first, he didn't realise how special it was.
There's a part of me that has been looking for a megalodon tooth since I was 6. So I haven't found one yet. I'm very, very pleased that he's found one.
Sammy has now taken to sleeping with his special tooth. This might be a once-in-a-lifetime find, but for this 6-year-old, he's determined it won't be his last. Jo Black, BBC News, Bordsey in Suffolk.
Good for Sammy. What a find at 6 years old, my goodness. Right, let's take a look at the weather. Stav Linnaeus is here. Hi, Stav.
Hi there, Fiona. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Well, changes have been taking place with the weather this afternoon. We've seen low pressure sweeping into northern and western areas, bringing outbreaks of very useful rain. In the next few days, it will stay on the unsettled side, quite breezy, with further rain or showers at times. Now, here it is, this whole tangle of weather fronts pushing into the north and the west of the country with this area of low pressure. Higher pressure, though, still held on across the south and the east. So although the sunshine's been turning hazier, it's stayed dry and quite warm and windy here. But look at the rain piling into Northern Ireland, much of Scotland, some heavy bursts there, getting into north and west Wales, northwest England too. Very much needed rain, of course. But the thing is, if you're wanting the rainfall across the southeast, this front will be fizzling out as we move through this evening and overnight as it pushes its way southwards and eastwards, not reaching East Anglia in the southeast until tomorrow morning. Behind it, it'll be clear spells, blustery showers. Some of them will be on the heavy side, a little bit fresher in the northwest. Otherwise, it's quite a warm and muggy night to come for England and Wales. So here it is, the pressure chart for Tuesday. Low pressure to the north of the UK, quite a few isobars on the chart, so it's going to be another breezy, even windy day. There's the weather front across the southeast, barely any rain on it. It won't give the gardens and fields across the southeast much of a drink. It will clear away, and then it's brighter with some sunshine around for most. Plenty of scattered showers, particularly in the north and the west of the country. Some of them could be heavy, maybe even thundery. And it will be quite a windy day to come. Mid to high teens for most. We could see 20 degrees across the southeast. Once again, pollen levels will be quite high, maybe not quite as high as what we've seen over the last week or so. Still high in the southeast, but with the showers further north and west and the breeze, it should help alleviate some of the levels there. Further showers and sunshine on Wednesday, some spell of rain pushing through England and Wales. That could provide some rain for the gardens. Otherwise, high pressure starts to build in later in the week and things are set to turn sunnier and warmer. Fiona.
Stav, thanks very much. A reminder of our top story this evening. The Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, says he'll resign if he's fined by Durham police for breaking COVID rules. That's all from the BBC News at 6. It's goodbye from me. And on BBC One, we can join the BBC's news teams where you are. Bye-bye.